So, after a very powerful performance of Beethoven's Fidelio that opened our Brown-Forman 2014-15 season, we are thrilled to continue the new path we launched this year called a Repertoire Reimagined. It's our offering to our audiences of masterworks they've never seen, works in new, adventuresome productions, and works that speak to the American experience. And that's exactly what we're offering you, my friends, today. A masterwork by Puccini that has never been produced by Kentucky Opera in a cinematically bold new production. While Madame Butterfly, Tosca, and La Boheme have been presented 9 times each in the 63 years of our company's history, The Girl of the Golden West will grace our stage for the first time on Friday, November 14th at 8 p.m. and Sunday, November 16th at 2 p.m. And such a pity it's taken this long for this wonderful production to come to Louisville. From the opening chords of the opera, we hear a master composer, confident and aware of his artistic voice, unafraid of innovation in musical themes and rhythms, easily interweaving lyricism and orchestral expression. He builds this work on musical themes that influenced him, from Italian Romanticism of the 19th century to South and North American music, creating a score that speaks to the ideas of the great American West. So to illustrate this point, I'm going to invite our accompanist today, Sheldon Miller, to play for you the opening introduction of Act 1 of The Girl of the Golden West. This theme comes back at various points in the opera, so please welcome our accompanist, Sheldon Miller. Thank you, Sheldon. A bit later in the program, I'll speak with our maestro, conductor on this production, David Jackson, about this and other themes that Puccini brought into the work. But let me now give you some background about its development. By 1904, Puccini had achieved international success with 4 operas, Manon Lescaut, La Boheme, Tosca, and Madame Butterfly. But he struggled for 3 years to find a suitable story on which to base his next work. In 1907, he visited New York for the Metropolitan Opera premiere of Madame Butterfly, which was based on the play of the same name by David Belasco, an American playwright, director, and producer. While in New York, Puccini attended another Belasco play, The Girl of the Golden West. The story would provide Puccini a new exotic setting, the American Wild West, a strong female lead, and an opportunity to explore new musical ideas. He eventually received a commission from the Metropolitan Opera for a work based on an American story. With that, The Girl of the Golden West had its premiere in New York on December 10th, 1910. In Act 1 of the opera, we see the Polka Saloon, the main watering hole for the men of this nondescript mining town up in the high Sierras of California. We meet the men who have come here to seek their fortunes, but more often find loneliness and poverty. While most may fail in their quest, they persevere and stick together, creating their own rules to maintain peace and order. Puccini scored their music as a chorus, but with solo lines interweaving throughout the opera. Minnie, the saloon owner, cares for the men with drink to ease their loneliness and Bible stories to comfort their souls. One of the characters we meet is Ashby, a Wells Fargo agent. He's in search of a band of outlaws led by a man named Ramirez, who's been attacking the transport company. The local sheriff, Jack Rance, is more interested in bragging about having Minnie for himself than he is about finding the bandit. Sonora chimes in as he too claims to love Minnie. Just as a barroom fight is about to explode, a pistol shot breaks the tension, and all heads turn to Minnie, who just entered the polka saloon. For our first musical number today, let me invite to the microphone our cast of The Girl of the Golden West: Franco Pomponi as Jack Rance, Zach Owens as Ashby, Michael Priestley as Sonora, and other studio artists involved in this. We have Sergio Gonzalez playing Trin, Joseph Flaxman as Handsome, Jeffrey Gates as Happy, Joshua Weaker as Joe, Brent Smith as Larkins, and today just singing the role of Harry is Marco Camarotto. So please welcome this cast to sing this first number, Un Poker, from Act 1 of The Girl of the Golden West.
Un poker, Nick gettoni, sceriffo, hello. Ragazzi, fate largo, salute a Mr. Ashby dell'agenzia Wells Fargo. Nick, portami da bere. Come sta la ragazza?
Grazie bene, grazie bene.
Che nuove del bandito? Da 3 mesi l'apposto non è molto discosto. Dicon che ruba come un gran signore. E spagnuolo, la banda di ladri a cui comanda è messicana, gentaccia, gagliarda, astuta, pronta a tutto. State in guardia, io mi sdraio, sono stanco, ho l'ossa rotte. A tutti buonanotte.
Cosa c'è?
Offre Minnie.
Viva Minnie, la nostra Minnie.
Mrs. Rance, fra poco. Faccia di cinese. Minnie si prende gioco di te. Ragazzo, e whisky che lavora, ti compatisco. Di Jack Rance finora nessuno intendi, nessuno sei mai preso al gioco. Intendi, è buon per te che non duri l'offese degli ubriachi. Vecchio biscazziere, Minnie ti burla. Provalo, ti burla muso giallo. Provalo. Vecchio biscazziere, Iaco, faccia di cinese. Iaco, Minnie ti burla. Oh, miserabile.
Bravo, guys. Thank you. A wonderful example of what happens throughout this score, this interweaving of dialogue in this wonderful orchestral expression of very romantic writing. So, in the story of the opera, there are 3 main characters that make up the triangle of the conflict. which of course revolves around our central character, Minnie. She, a saloon owner, gun-toting, caregiver of all, is beloved by all. Circling her, vying for her love, is Jack Rance, a self-assured sheriff, and Dick Johnson, a mystery man, with a past that is revealed only after our Minnie falls for him desperately. Early in Act 1, Jack Rance vociferously declares his love for Minnie. He sings of his unhappy childhood, gambling habits, and about what he would give for one kiss from Minnie. So please welcome back to the microphone Franco Pamponi to sing Jack Rance's aria, Minnie dalla mia casa.
Minnie, dalla mia casa son partito, che là dai monti sopra un alto mare, non un rimpianto, Minnie, m'ha seguito, non un rimpianto di poter lasciare, nessuno mai m'amò, nessuno amato, nessuna cosa mai mi die piacere, chiudo nel petto un cuor di biscazziere, amaro avvelenato che ride dell'amore e del destino. Mi son messo in cammino, attratto sol dal fascino dell'oro, e questo il solo che non m'ha ingannato. Or per un bacio tuo getto un tesoro.
Next, I'm going to introduce you to the leading lady of this spaghetti western, Minnie. Immediately after Sheriff Rance opens his heart to Minnie, she rejects his romantic overtures with a reflection of her own childhood memories, proudly professing that she will only marry for love. So let me invite to the microphone now our Minnie, Michelle Johnson, to sing this aria, Laggiù nel Soledad, from Act 1 of The Girl of the Golden West.
tavolino qualche voto giocava anch'essa. Ed io che me ne stavo sotto al tavolino aspettando cader qualche moneta. La vedevo serar furtiva il pì al babbone.
Bravo, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. So the third character in this triangle, is our mystery man, Dick Johnson. He's a newcomer to the polka saloon that no one seems to know. He further disrupts the sheriff's attempts to court Minnie with an entrance that would make Clint Eastwood proud, strong and silent, you know? Minnie begins to remember him from a previous encounter on a road to Monterey. Rance becomes argumentative, insinuating Johnson may not be who he says he is. Tempers flare, and the men only settle down when Minnie intervenes, vouching for the stranger she has met only once. In the closing scene of Act 1, Minnie and Johnson are left alone as the others head off to find the gang of robbers they've been warned is in the area. Now, unlike the orgasmic duet that ends Act 1 of Madame Butterfly, this scene becomes a guarded dance, almost a game of poker between two players, showing little but continually upping the ante. Minnie does reveal that she longs to be near him to talk with him. He replies that her heart has already told him what she could not. So please welcome John Burton to sing Dick Johnson's affectionate reply to Minnie in this duet from Act 1 of The Girl of the Golden West.
Che tacete me l'ha detto il cor quando il braccio v'offersi alla danza con me contro il mio petto vi senti tremar e provai una gioia strana, una nuova pace che dir non so.
So, John, if you wouldn't mind just staying at the microphone, and I want to do something different today. I want to invite Michelle Johnson up and Franco Pomponi, if you wouldn't mind coming up as well. So we have the whole trio here together. Michelle, we'll just start with you. If you wouldn't mind, just take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure.
Sure. Hi, I'm Michelle Johnson, originally from Houston, Texas, but now I reside in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is my first time here singing this role here in Louisville, or Louisville, or Lawville.
You got it.
Thank you, one of those. So I'm just very excited to be here, and everyone is so wonderful, and the company is so grand, and they're lovely, and I just feel at home, and I can't wait to come back.
Good. Well, that's exactly how we hope every guest feels in Louisville, that they feel at home.
Indeed. Thank you.
John, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
It is great to have you back. You enjoyed great success in the role of Florestan with Fidelio. And I understand this is not the first time that you've sung the role of Dick Johnson.
It's not. This is my third.
Your third time.
Yeah.
And tell us just a little bit about, remind us who you are. You live not too far away from us.
I don't live too far away, just across the river and down a few miles. I live in Portsmouth, Ohio. It's a town I grew up in. A couple other opera singers from Portsmouth, Ohio. There's Kathleen Battle, Faith Esham. So, yeah, look at that.
Well represented in that
yeah,
town.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
I try.
Well, welcome back to Louisville,
Thank
and we're
you.
glad to have you and your family who's staying with you right now, I understand.
Yes, I so appreciate you having. They're all here with me. I have 3 kids with me and my wife, all staying in the Galt House.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Franco, thank you for joining us on this production. Welcome to Louisville. It's not your first time in Louisville, but your first time with Kentucky Opera.
Yes, it is.
Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Chicago and moved to New York, and now split my time between New York and Paris. And but I'm excited to be doing my first Jack Rance here in quite an interesting character and complex and dark and
Not at all
sad.
like yourself.
No, I guess not.
Just so you know, Franco and I have a little bit of history. We go way back to when we were puppies in undergrad school together up in Wisconsin.
We're called
Very young
Gondolieri.
puppies. And, yeah. Life has changed a little bit. But enough of that history. Let's talk just a little bit, if we can, about these characters. And let's go back to you, Minnie, the real central character here. Just give us a 5-second speech, your elevator speech about who Minnie is.
Well, since you just gave me 5 seconds, Minnie is a well-rounded woman who has taken in these guys and she's their mother, she's their sister, whatever these gentlemen need, she's there for them. And she has these morals, and she wants true love, and she just doesn't settle for anything. And then when she meets this stranger, it's like destiny, and she doesn't know really what to do with it, but she's just gonna go with whatever fate has for her. And so she's very strong, and she's loves life, and I find a lot of myself in this character, which is really nice.
And now to you, Franco, the Sheriff Rance, who in any other opera might be the dark character, he might be the antagonist to the protagonist, but that's not really the case with Jack Rance. So just tell us your elevator speech about Jack.
Well, he's been hired by the town to protect them, and he watches over them. He's a well-respected man in the city, and he's the top dog, and he has this fascination with Minnie, but he's a pragmatic guy. He only believes in gold. He doesn't put much stock in romance or in sentimentality. He's left his wife back in New Orleans, and he's traveled a great distance to be the sheriff of this town and the responsibility that goes with it.
And perhaps there's a mystery as to why he left New Orleans as well, you know, and the backstory there.
Exactly.
And John, our real mystery man, Dick Johnson.
The mystery man. I love that. As he reveals in his Act 2 outpouring to Minnie, he was 6 months ago, he was just sitting there, a happy kid, and his father dies, and it is then revealed to him that his father was the notorious bandit Ramirez. And if he wants to support his mother and his brothers, he has to take up leadership of this gang. So he feels he has no choice, and he does. So he becomes now the infamous bandit Ramirez. And he's going out to knock over this mining town's little camp. And when he gets there, he sees Minnie, who he had met before on the road to Monterey, and just kind of had a falling in love with her at first sight. And when he sees her again, he takes this as maybe some kind of sign that this is his way of redemption out of this life that he wrestles with.
And in the end, that might be the theme of this whole story, a theme of redemption. And something
Indeed.
we're going to talk just a little bit later with John Humes, our stage director, on as well.
Very good.
Thank you all for joining us in this production, and thank you for joining us today as well.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Great to have you here. If you just joined us, you are listening to Kentucky Opera's live broadcast of Lunch and Listen, featuring artists from our upcoming performances of Puccini's Wild Wild West opera, The Girl of the Golden West. Performances are Friday, November 14th at 8 p.m. and Sunday, November 16th at 2 p.m. If you would like to attend a performance, please call us at 584-7777, or you can call toll-free 800-690-9236. You may also purchase tickets and select your seats online at www.kyopera.org. So, if Minnie suspects Johnson to be the gang leader Ramirez, she never reveals it. After hearing that another gang member was spotted outside the saloon, she emphatically states to Johnson that she is protecting gold for the miners who have placed their undying trust in her. Anyone who attempts to steal it will have to kill her first. With this declaration, Johnson abandons any plan he may have to steal the gold, professing to her, "No one will dare." In a quiet moment of hope and desire, she invites him to her cabin tonight where they can continue their conversation. He simply accepts her offer and leaves her alone to guard the gold. So please welcome back to the microphone Michelle Johnson as Minnie and John Burton as Dick Johnson to sing part of their duet from Act 1 of The Girl of the Golden West.
Il segnale.
Ascoltate, che sarà questo fischio? In quel barile Johnson c'è un tesoro, ci ripongono loro i ragazzi.
E vi lascian così.
Ogni notte rimangon qui a vegliarlo, a turno un po' per uno. Stanotte son partiti sulle pesti di quel dannato.
Solo
io saluto nella vostra capanna.
Dovete proprio andare.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Michelle. I would like to take a couple of minutes now and bring our conductor, Maestro David Jackson, to the microphone and talk just a little bit about these themes, David. Some of the themes that Puccini has incorporated, and I know you have examples that you want to show our audience.
The only reason I wanted to sort of pick out some of these themes for you is that this opera is so wealthy, so rich in associations. In Puccini's thinking, this is a huge advance forward over the Butterfly and the Bohème and the Tosca, because in this opera, the identifying things have been reduced to like a motive. It's no longer big themes half the time. We just have a couple of measures or just something identifiable. And to help us appreciate it, I just want Sheldon to play a couple of things. The theme, the overriding theme at the end of the 19th century for many shows was redemption in whatever form. And at the beginning of the overture, Puccini just gives it to us, the first 6 measures or so. So that's it. And it comes out of a completely radical sound world. It's something called the whole tone scale, which Puccini had rarely used before in his other operas. And this time it just comes to the fore, just surging out. And it makes all kinds of associations. You'll hear some beautiful music based on this this scale throughout the opera. Some lovely, beautiful things, almost reminiscent of Debussy. There's a couple of love themes, which one would expect. And one of them comes up, which is never sung by the singers, but comes up in the orchestra quite a lot, especially in Act 2 in their big duet. But here it is in the overture as well. The end of that one. So you'll hear that, the huge passionate scene in Minnie's cabin up on the mountain when they discover that they are fatally attracted to each other. This is just all over the place. Puccini bases his Act 3 finale on the most beautiful tune, one of his most beautiful themes. It's a theme of nostalgia, and it is sung by an old blind minor who's had a bit of difficulty and now just is the camp minstrel, and comes in playing a banjo. And in the orchestration, if I can get our harpist to do it, he has instructed the harp to interweave paper in the strings of the instrument so it gets a kind of a clicky sound. So we'll hear the nostalgia theme, and you'll hear it later on when we sing it at the end of this presentation. You hear these pulsating, beautiful melodies in and out.
And we have time for one more, David.
Okay, great. Well, I think we already heard Minnie's theme when the big bang goes off, so I think maybe Dick Johnson's jazzy motive might let you into a little bit of this jazz world that Puccini's latching into. And that's it. But you'll hear cowboy songs, there's some saloon music, there's all kinds of bar music, some ragtime in this show. He weaves it in masterfully. It's the most beautiful score.
Thank you, David, for enlightening us on this.
My pleasure to be back in Louisville.
We're so delighted to have you back. David was, of course, with us last season for our company premiere of Verdi's Simon Boccanegra, so we're glad to have you back, David. Act 2 takes us to Minnie's cabin out in the woods. She's preparing for Johnson's arrival with the hope that they will enjoy a romantic evening together. A raging snowstorm provides a most convenient excuse to encourage him to stay the night. Unfortunately, their solitude is interrupted by a group of miners outside searching for the outlaw Ramirez. As Johnson hides, the miners tell Minnie his real identity is the gang leader, Ramirez. Minnie restrains her emotions, choosing instead to laugh at the news and dismiss the miners, concealing from them the very man hiding in her cabin. Once alone with Johnson, Minnie furiously confronts him on his deception. He admits the truth but defends himself, explaining his family circumstances. He became a thief in order to provide for his widowed mother. He confesses that Minnie has inspired him to change his ways. Minnie replies that she can forgive the bandit, but not the man who stole her first kiss. He leaves her, only to return moments later, having been shot by the sheriff. As Minnie hides him again, Sheriff Rance enters, finding her alone. Rance is about to leave, but he sees drops of blood that reveal Johnson's hideaway. Desperate, Minnie quickly conjures a plan to save him from certain death. Knowing Rance would not turn down a chance to gamble, she challenges him to a game of poker. If she loses, she'll marry Rance. But if he loses, Johnson belongs to her. Rance accepts her offer. So I invite Michelle Johnson as Minnie and Franco Pomponi as Jack Rance back to the microphone to sing this scene from Act 2 of The Girl of the Golden West.
Che c'è di nuovo, Jack?
Non son Jack, son lo sceriffo a caccia del tuo Johnson d'inferno. L'ho seguito la traccia, deve esser qui dov'è?
Ma avete seccato son questo vostro Ramirez?
E là ferito, per Dio ne son certo, non può esser fuggito, non può esser che qua.
E cercatelo dunque, rovistate dove vi pare, e poi lasciatevi dai piedi una volta verso.
Giuri che non c'è,
E non seguitate a cercarlo,
e sarà, l'avrò sbagliato. Ma dimmi che non l'ami, ma dimmi che non l'ami. La vedi, son pazzo di te. Ti voglia, ti voglia.
Esce figliotto, esce, vieni qua, vieni qua.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Franco. I would like now to invite our stage director of this production and the gentleman who was really responsible in building this production with Nashville Opera, General Director from Nashville Opera, John Humes. Let's welcome him. Well, welcome back, John. I know it's been some time since you last directed a show for Kentucky Opera.
1995.
1995, just a couple of years ago. Yeah. We were both younger then.
Much.
Yeah, probably not smarter, but younger then. John, I really fell in love with this production, and what I would like you to do is just talk to the audience about the production, the creation of this very cinematic approach to the set design.
Okay. Well, I've always wanted to do this piece, and I've always been a big fan of westerns, especially I'll call them spaghetti westerns, the Italian westerns of Sergio Leone in the 50s with Clint Eastwood. And so when we looked to do this piece, we decided that's a direction we wanted to take this. And it was a little bit to get your head around the piece, because it is about a bunch of cowboys and miners in a gold rush town in California, but they're all singing in Italian. And so you do have the strange moment sometime when someone sings, I think Nick the bartender sings Buonasera ragazzi, which in English means evening boys. So it's a little, you have to get your head around that a little bit. But when we were first starting to do the piece, I talked to my video and light designer, Barry Steele, who's flying in next week. And so he and I conceived this piece in a very cinematic, visual way, because what we have is a piece written by an Italian composer, a fantastic Italian opera composer, about the American West. But this composer had never been to the American West. And so he learned all this through reading, and also Buffalo Bill's Wild West show was touring Europe at the time. And it was such an exotic locale. So what he wrote is not like a Masterpiece Theater museum quality, this is the truth of the West. He wrote this mythic, romanticized view of the American West, and all the romance and violence and gunslinging and saloons that he felt were a part of that. So we wanted to capture that on stage. And so the first thing that Sheldon was playing, that opening of the piece, when I first heard that, I was thinking, I talked to my designer and I said, if we were doing the movie of this would start with what they call a helicopter tracking shot through the Grand Canyon, right? Because you have this wah, 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 and so the canyon, the walls are spinning by. And I thought this would be a great opening if we were doing the movie. And maybe we start in modern time and it goes and the walls blur, and then when it lands, we're in the Wild West for the prelude. And so that was our jumping off point. And so we used a very cinematic language. And so what you'll see when you come see this is we have a good bit of scenery on stage, mostly a few scenic pieces and a lot of furniture. There's a fantastic bar in the saloon, which I'd love to have in my house if my house were big enough. But the primary scenic element is a projection screen, and on which we have a very high definition video. And we have rear projection as well as front projection. And so when there's a snowstorm in Act 2, this is all video, and very intense video. So it's almost like we did a movie and we put the opera in the middle of it.
How long was the process in developing the projections, which for the novice, those of us that are unfamiliar with this kind of technology, it seems so simple, but it's a very delicate process of editing and incorporating these projections.
It's a very delicate process because it's not just like we're projecting a backdrop. It's not like we're projecting like the back wall of the saloon. A lot of the video is interactive, so a lot of the positioning we have done in staging it, they have to be in a certain place because that interacts with the video, because sometimes the video changes. So it's not just purely picture. Sometimes, and for instance, there's one section in Act 2 when Minnie sings about how she loves living in the mountains and how she rides her horse in the mountains, and that's where I get my tracking shot. And as she starts singing this, the what's been the sky at night with mountains and stars, it morphs into this helicopter shot of going over a river somewhere in Montana at night with the sun coming up, and it's just beautiful. So we kind of get more into the subtext of what the characters are singing about. And so we stay sometimes in full realism, and sometimes it goes very much more abstract and real, but there always is a point to it. But developing that, we really had to carefully time it out. Sure. and with all the software that makes it work. There's a thing where he has to render it. So we have the video, and then it has to render into a form we can project, and it's very involved.
Well, I look forward for our audience to see it. It's some beautiful images you've created, and I think exactly what this kind of production needs, this kind of opera.
Well, I will say that at the end, like any good Western, when the hero and heroine ride into the sunset, they literally ride into the sunset. Seriously.
Thank you, John. Now, Act 3, the final act of this opera, follows sometime later as the winter begins to break in the high Sierras of California. While sitting by a fire waiting for the arrival of the other men, Ashby comments on the failed attempts to catch the bandit Ramirez, a.k.a. Johnson. He and Rance ruminate on how things have changed since he came to this area. Rance points down to Minnie's cabin and avows that she'll never see her lover again unless it's at the end of a rope. Sonora comes up declaring that they have caught Johnson. He's brought to the campsite, and Billy is ordered to prepare a noose so justice can be immediately rendered on this long-sought bandit. While accusations of murder are thrown at Johnson, he confesses only to being a thief and nothing more, unafraid of the violent calls for his hanging. Once again, I would like to invite to the microphone Marco Camarotto as now Harry, Zach Owens as Ashby, Michael Priestley as Sonora, Franco Pomponi as the Sheriff Rance, and John Burton as Dick Johnson, along with our other studio artists, to perform this scene of Act 3 of The Girl of the Golden West.
Buona fortuna, o mio bel gentiluomo. E così, Mr. Johnson, come va? Scusate se v'abbiamo disturbato. Purché facciate presto. Quanto a questo, bastano sbrigarci pochi minuti. È quello che desidero. E che desideran tutti, vero? Allaccio a morte, anello di cane. Ladro, hai saccheggiato tutto il paese. La tua banda l'ha derubata ed ucciso. No. La squadra di Monterey, bandito, fu massacrata dalle facce gialle di quelle due canaglie messicane. Pugnelassi alle spalle il povero Tommy. No, non è vero. Sì. Non è un mese alle valle, v'ho ucciso un postilione. Tu uccidesti? No. A morte. Tu lo uccidesti? No. A morte, a morte. A morte, a morte. A morte. Maledizione a me. Poi ladro, ma assassino mai. No, non è vero. Non è vero. Seppure con le sorte che t'aiutò. Alla polca quella notte veniste per rubare. Io che sorriso dimmi a disarmarti. Anche lei ci ha rubato. Ladro, ladro. La torre di ragazze. Lascio lo spagnolo. A morte. A morte. Via la mano maestra. E sarai fatto re della foresta. Forse. Ti farei ballare. Farei ballare. L'ultima contradanza. Farei scontare. Sarai fatto re della foresta. Facciù. A morte, a morte. Forse. Non vi preoccupate, cavaliero. È una cosa da nulla.
Thank you, guys. So before we end the program today, I want to thank our audience here in the studio for joining us today for the live broadcast of Lunch and Listen with artists from the second production of Kentucky Opera's Brown-Forman 2014-15 season, Puccini's The Girl of the Golden West. Performances are Friday, November 14th at 8 p.m., Sunday, November 16th at 2 p.m. in the W.L. Lyons Brown Theater. To buy tickets, you may call 502-584-7777 or reach us at 1-800-690-9236. And you may also reach us on the web at www.kyopera.org for additional information about all of our productions this season, as well as purchasing tickets. We want to thank our sponsors, Brown-Forman Corporation, Wells Fargo Bank, the Guild of Kentucky Opera, Claudia Muir, and for their annual support, we thank Fifth Third Bank, Bluegrass Motorsport, the Galt House, Hawthorne Suites, the Kentucky Center, Metro Louisville, Kentucky Arts Council, and the Fund for the Arts. And we also want to thank our friends at Classical 90.5, WUOL, and Metro TV. So in this final scene, before Sheriff Rance gives the order to execute Johnson, he allows the bandit to speak to some final words. He gives him an opportunity to say his final words. In one of his most impassioned moments, Johnson begs not for his life, but for the memory of his beloved Minnie, that she be told he did not die at the end of a rope, but was given his freedom to live a good life as she had taught him to do. Before the men can carry out Rance's final order, Minnie's voice is heard. She quickly comes up the mountain to plead for mercy for Johnson. When her pleas go unanswered, she rushes to Johnson's side and draws a pistol, threatening to kill both Johnson and herself. The miners are divided, but Sonora finally sways the decision, leaving Minnie and Johnson to leave and find a happier life together. The miners bid a sad farewell to their beloved Minnie. Please welcome back our cast, as well as our Minnie, Michelle Johnson, to sing this final scene of the opera, The Girl of the Golden West.
Le tue parole sono di Dio, tu l'ami come nessuno al mondo, in nome di tutti a te la dono. Grazia,
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let me just introduce our cast once again. We have John Burton as Dick Johnson, Michelle Johnson singing the role of Minnie. Our Sonora is Michael Priestley. Jeffrey Gates is Happy. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hidden back there, Brent Smith, who is Larkins. Franco Pamponi, who is our Jack Rance. Our Ashby is Zach Owens. Joseph Flaxman is Handsome, of course. Joe, yes. Trin is Sergio Gonzalez. And Joshua Weaker is our Joe in this production. And then filling in for Harry today is Marco Camarotto, who sings the bartender Nick in the production. And of course, up here as well is our director, John Hooms. And I also want to thank David Jackson, our conductor. Puccini be the composer.